Are we actually? Hello and welcome to the Gooners podcast. You are shit at that countdown, Mike.
Oh, and you're shit at being counted down too. Look, we're not professionals here. We've never tried to portray ourselves.
That's very true. I usually start the podcast by singing, and I was going to start singing the We Got Ozil song, and then I fluffed the live part. So
we're not going to get the benefit of your singing anyway. But speaking of singing and Christmas carols and all that, our family, the Feinbergowitz-Steenman family, is mad chuffed for Christmas. We've been decorating the tree, widening our chimney so I can fit up and down it. What's Ollie's second Christmas going to be like? Getting hooked up?
We did Christmas this morning with my family in England, and he literally gave two shits about any of it. He wanted to play with pens. So we're still
getting him pens.
Yeah. So we got him a bunch of pens. No, we're just going to chill and then head up to the mountains.
To one of your 7 new mountain homes that you purchased.
Yeah.
So we got a couple of great guests tonight with us. Not as great as last week's, but they're all right.
Well, they're average.
They're average. Returning to the pod for his second appearance, he's a longtime member of the crew of Arsenal, which is the New Orleans supporters group. He's a short-time member of the Gooners in the NFL Fantasy Football League, and didn't really cut it this season, I got to say. Although he was my Bolton, my Southampton, my bugaboo team all season long, but we like him anyway. Welcome back to the pod, Fredo Narvaez Jr. Don't get him mixed up with Senior.
Okay. I can get Senior if you need me to. Just let me say no. And thank you. And look, I came into this league only to do one thing: to beat Mike Feiberg as much as possible.
Well, you haven't. You didn't get the job done because I'm in the finals. But enough about that. We could do a whole podcast about that. We also have the return tonight of the Pineapple Luchador himself. And you're probably seeing him for the first time because last time he was on the podcast, he was too handsome to have the video actually show up. So it ended up being an hour and a half of me picking my nose and urinating behind the curtain, which no one was supposed to see. So anyway, hopefully it's fixed so you can see his face. And he's the father figure of the Alamo City Arsenal Supporters Club, despite not actually being a father. It is David, a.k.a. Dolph Ziggler. Welcome back. Dolph Ziggler is a wrestler.
He spells it wrong, but that's fine. I wore that stupid mask on the last podcast. And we do we talk about it. I'm wearing the thing. I'm smothering under it, and then come to find out it's just your face the whole hour.
There are times where people need to see beauty, and there are times when people need to see luchador masks, and that was a beauty time.
It's written in his contract that we only get to see his face on live appearances.
So
you own image rights, so there's image rights. I got it. Right.
Yeah, we have no budget on this podcast, so I spent the whole budget on that. So Fredo, you and your fellow crew members are probably heavily immersed right now in the planning for Gooner Gras 6 coming up in about a month and a half or so. Does it get busier as the event gets closer? How's the planning going so far?
Weirdly enough, it actually gets easier the closer the events get because most of the planning has already been done. For those that don't know, it's a group of us that's kind of gets together to do it. And really, at this point, dates are set. There's a few decisions that have to be made along the way. Some positions of power and authority that must be determined. But besides that, basically, the date is set. It's February 14th through the 17th. We know where we're going. We know what we're going to do. We know Friday night is going to be back at Urban South. Saturday night is back at BB King's. There's a few little things here and there that, depending on what's happening, because fortunately and unfortunately, the city of New Orleans is kind of rearranging Mardi Gras around because it's getting bigger and bigger. So like that weekend, we have like a major conference coming in the weekend, and we have another group kind of coming along.
I heard some face painted degenerates are going to be in town with us, and they're also saying some degenerates are going to be in town with them, but.
Yeah, it's going to be Juggalo weekend alongside Gooner Gras 6. So
Could be Mike, Fredo, David, and an insane clown posse. We could just call ourselves the insane clown posse.
Yeah, they might be trademarked with that.
Yeah, maybe so. So for our listeners who weren't with us this time last year when we had you on to talk about Gooner Gras, and when we had Tiffany on as well, tell us a little bit, tell our listeners a little bit about how the event came to be. Because I mean, I've been twice now. I somehow missed the memo the first 4 years or 3 years, but I've been the last two. It's just absolute shithousery in the best possible way, with a basic undertone of Arsenal. But give your explanation for kind of how it turned into to the extravaganza that it is.
Long and short of it is, it started kind of as a joke. Meeting the small group that used to meet at Finn McCool's kind of started. Omar, who's kind of the godfather of the crew of Arsenal, and Colin was our first president, kind of were joking around saying, we should get together and do something during the parades. And, because we have Mardi Gras every year. And they just said, well, we'll throw some Arsenal in there and we'll call it Gooner Gras. Yeah, sounds like fun. It was a laugh. It was a joke. Next thing you know, they're getting together. Feelings are coming along. They're planning. And there's Gooner Gras 1. And it's just a small group of people, a few folks from Chicago, a few folks from Austin, a few mostly local. And it wasn't more than, say, 25 to 50 people. Second Gooner Gras is 50 people. That's when a few folks from San Antonio heard about it, and they said, we can take the party up to 11. And they decided to come along. And it's just grown leaps and bounds. Last year was our biggest Gooner Gras ever.
And how many people would you say from overseas? I mean, there was at least, I think, 20 out of the 300 or so that came from abroad, or that were broads or something.
Yeah, well, and that's interesting. As it's grown, it's gotten even bigger and bigger and bigger. It's gotten to the point where we're getting words from people. Now they're coming from Australia, and they're coming from
Mozambique.
And they're coming from everywhere, and they're all saying that looks like a fun time. And all it is, it's just a fun get together. It's a few nights where you're just gonna party and have a good time in New Orleans. And along the way, there's a match. There may be 2 matches.
There might be 2 this time.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
if we should get so lucky.
Yeah, this year we had none matches because.
Thank you, Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, exactly. And at the very least, it didn't matter because we were having a good time. Such a good time that a match or no match, it all ended up happening all the same.
So before I go to David, I've heard rumblings that one of the new events this year is going to be a special Gooner orgy. Did I hear wrong about that, or was that your brainchild?
That may have been David's brainchild, not mine.
Okay, so David, was that your brainchild, or was it Lori's?
Oh, come on now. No, that wasn't mine. I think probably Brian.
I'm here.
It may or may not have been mine, actually. But
we'll just punt that around until we find out. To some extent, actually, the first Gooner Gras, and maybe kind of to a lesser extent the second, is somewhat responsible for Alamo City Arsenal existing as it does. Lori and I and some of the friends happened to be in New Orleans the weekend before the first Gooner Gras. And there was no such thing as Alamo City Arsenal. There wasn't a group in San Antonio that got together on a consistent basis. But having visited New Orleans and I knew there was a match that weekend, I found out there was a place to go watch the matches. We went down, Lori and I and another friend went down and watched the match and hung around for quite a while, met a lot of people. Omar was not there. Remember that he was actually at the match. But we got to talking after that weekend and said we could make something like that in San Antonio. And that's when I kind of looked online. I found Brian Whitener. He was kind of pinging around at people saying, let's try to do something similar. And that's how I actually met him. But it was literally because of visiting New Orleans, and it just so happened to be 1 week before the first Gooner Gras, that we then decided about 3 weeks later to have our first meetup, February 2nd, after the first Gooner Gras. That was the first time Alamo City Arsenal ever got together. And then 1 year later, Gooner Gras 2, we came in pretty good numbers because we've been singing the whole time that, wow, it was New Orleans that kind of got us all to start doing this.
So the headline is, come to this fucking thing because you will never have a more fun time.
Well, there's that, and it'll change a lot of your perspective on how to be an Arsenal fan in a way.
Yeah, and whether Americans take it really seriously or not.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, we do. So Are you still employed, or have you been sacked because you spent all your time writing questions for John Burko? Excellent questions, by the way.
I did that on my lunch break. I could do what I want on my lunch break.
You know, John, or as we like to call him, J-Dog Berkey Burks. I mean,
Berkey.
Berkey is a buddy of ours now. He's a mate. He especially loved the pineapple question, which came up in our last podcast. I forget who asked. Oh, that was Gav, actually, that asked about pineapple. For the record, according to him, and he kind of danced around this, but he said you're not welcome back in England as long as you're going to be putting pineapple.
My question. You completely mischaracterized that.
Well,
I like how suddenly this has turned into like a political football, literally with a leader of a political leader in England is actually chiming in on this with you.
Well, you know, we need to have answers on that. So, chat room, by the way, I see we got a good numbers in the chat room tonight so far for a late night pod. We want to thank Joey, Oscar Salazar, Steve-O, who I believe is up very, very late right now because he's over in the UK. James is there. Brandon McCallum's there. Lori Ziegler is there. She was probably 4 feet away from David and typing up on the computer. But if I missed anybody, I'll catch up with you. But feel free to chime in on whether pineapple on a pizza is one of two things: either delicious and acceptable, or vile, diabolical, disgusting, reprehensible, antisocial behavior. I have no personal leanings, but
you clearly do.
Yeah, one of those two answers, I think.
No, you clearly have betrayed a personal leaning on this. But my question that you mischaracterized to him was whether or not people who think that you shouldn't be allowed to do it should be allowed in the UK. I think it's a question of freedom.
Oh, okay. So
question of freedom.
So it was us that could have been banned from getting in, not you.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I like the way I did it better. Surprise. Okay. So and I have to say that podcast. I mean, Andy and I were talking afterwards. I mean, that was one of the thrills. I mean, we've had a lot of them in our brief podcasting time, but I mean, just to spend almost an hour and a half having a conversation with the Speaker of the House of Parliament of the UK was fantastic. And if you haven't listened to it, it's on our YouTube page. It's out on iTunes, on the web. A lot of people, as we've come to find out, especially over in the UK, may not necessarily agree with his politics, with his, political, persona and so on as the Speaker of the House. But this was not a political interview. It was all about Arsenal. He was relaxed. He was, really just enjoyed the conversation. So whether you like him or not, if you want to hear a good conversation about Arsenal, I'd love for you to tune into it. So, did he seem as interesting to you as he did to us, Dave? I mean, you seem to be one of the more excited people about this podcast.
I was really excited about it, but I also get up early on Wednesdays to watch Prime Minister's Questions because it's my favorite TV program ever. And if you've never watched it, you want to. It's I guess it's 7 o'clock Eastern, it's noon time over there.
Yeah.
And I think C-SPAN has it on. It's 30 minutes, goes over by about 10 minutes usually. But members of Parliament get to stand up and just ask the Prime Minister any random question they feel like. And the Leader of the Opposition gets 6, but it's always just screaming and yelling, and it sounds like a herd of sheep all baying at one another. It's insane. But
yeah, why can't the government over there be as civilized and orderly as ours?
Yeah.
So we had 2 games. Let's get to Arsenal. 2 games this week, Andy. Turns out we're not going to win the quadruple. That much is clear. Back on Wednesday, it was the Carabao Cup quarterfinals against some team of jackass mofos. Obviously, the plan was to force them into 2 kind of ridiculous games in January, wasn't it?
Yeah, we don't have the squad depth to play those semifinal matches, so let's let them do it because they don't have the squad depth either. And the great thing about that is it's 2 teams we're going to be vying for 3rd place with, so let's let them duke it out and hopefully get some injuries. And yeah,
get some injuries.
We
hope people's knees will buckle and break.
It's bittersweet because had we lost to like a Leicester or Norwich or Chelsea for that matter, it's like okay, it's a nothing cup. But because it's Tottenham, you always want to beat them. But I think at the end of the day, Mike, we're better off not being in the trophy. I'd rather, if we're going to make a deep run in a cup, we go for the FA Cup. But yeah, those 2 games in January are really going to help us out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just common Gooner fare to kind of play both sides. I mean, we want to knock them out of the week before we were saying we want to knock them out of the cup more than we actually want to win this cup. And now that we've lost, we can kind of come back to our, good luck to them in their 2-game weeks in January when we're sitting at home resting. So our talking points for the game, fuck those guys. Our defense was an absolute shambles. We gave up 2 of the more straightforward Route 1 goals you could give up, and that was that. Anybody else really need to talk about the game, or can we skip to
Let's skip it.
Yeah,
Let's skip it. I mean, when you look at the scoreline, we were very unfortunate not to go up 1-0. Then we had 2 or 3 off the post. It's the country of that team that just makes it bullshit. So let's move on. Let's actually get to Burnley where we actually won.
Yeah, and we actually have our podcasts when we lose are 5 minutes long. We actually have a lot to talk about in this Burnley game. So the lineup, back 4 with Kolasinac and Mainsley as fullbacks, Monreal a fullback, and Socrates in the middle. Once again, it's 1 true central defender on the pitch out of 4, out of 2 or 3, depending on the lineup. But the good news is it's King Dick Socrates, Saka Papadopoulos Lordos. Do we really need any other defensive players out there, Fredo, if Socrates is on the pitch? We just play like a 1-6-4 or 1-6-3?
Well, actually, you do want to have some other defenders because he's liable to end up either getting into a fight or picking up a foul, a dumb card here or there. It's bound to happen. I mean, that Burnley match was treasure. If somebody like Mustafi had been on that match, he doesn't make the whole 90. They would have found some way with their shithousery to get him out of there. So,
yeah.
That Socrates was great in that match, but I think that's part of why you brought a guy like that in, because these are the kind of matches where somebody like him makes all the difference.
Yeah, we're seeing his value for sure. David, Aubameyang and Lacazette starting together. Did you read into it as a 2 up top with Ozil behind them, or did you kind of look at it like NBC came out with their formation chart at the beginning of the game as a 3-man line with Ozil and one of Abba and Lacazette kind of floating out wide and one playing as the 9? I mean, was it a 4-3-2-1-2 or was it a 4-3-3 in your mind?
In my actually, as soon as I saw the lineup, I posted into a chat that it was 4-3-1-2, or at least I said I want it to be 4-3-1-2, something to that effect. Please let it be 4-3-1-2. But I want to go back actually really quick. Your last question, or what your last statement about Socrates. He clearly needs a center back paired with him if he's to play in a 4-man back line. And I think Monreal can play center back. When Lichtsteiner came in, we had to shift to the 3 back there because they had to put somebody else with him, given that he was going to have it turned into Xhaka, because he can't be back there with a non-center back. Apparently, you have to have 2 with him. There's something to that. Yeah. And somebody there was a question I think I saw on Twitter. One of the questions was something to that effect. Why did we switch to a 3-man back line when Lichtsteiner came in for Monreal?
I liked the fact that we switched to a 3-man. I mean, jumping ahead a little bit, because the 2 fullbacks that we started with are really more wingback than fullback. They can play fullback, but I wasn't happy about the reason that we had to switch to a 3. My boy, my Ballon d'Or winner. You can't win the Ballon d'Or, Nacho, if you keep getting hurt. But I have been wanting to see those 2 employed and deployed more as wingbacks than fullbacks. So in that regard, I like the way that they switch. But Captain Mesut, Andy, as our resident Mesut, whatever the opposite of Basher is, the pro Mesut guy on the podcast, after a week of Emery kind of dancing around the issue in the media and almost seeming like he was causing an issue with Mesut by not denying and transfer rumors, all of a sudden he makes him the captain and slaps him out there and puts the armband on his ass. I mean, what do you make of that?
If you think back to the early 2000s, Sir Alex Ferguson would never talk about a player that wasn't in the starting 11 or the 15, 18-man squad, because he would always say, I talk about the people who are here. And for me, that's what Emery's doing. Yeah, he could have just quashed the rumors saying, what he said right before the match. He's in my plans. It's ridiculous. You guys don't think so. He will be playing at the weekend. And he's our captain. Like that would have done business. But at the end of the day, Mike, clickbait media make up all the stories. It's the Ozil thing. Like, I feel like we live in a time frame with Arsenal where you need to have a scapegoat. If it's not Xhaka, it's Ozil. Like, there always has to be someone to blame, and everyone just keeps buying into this £350,000 a week. Like, grow up already. It's not our money. It doesn't matter. To the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. Is he worth that? No, he's not. But there are other players out there, like Theo Walcott. You never saw anyone getting all hot and bothered when he was the 4th highest paid player at the club.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did.
Well, but not for a long time. Not for a long time. It wasn't until like the last year. And you also have to remember that this isn't the administration that gave Ozil $350 a week. If this administration had gone into contract negotiations, we'd be in a Ramsey scenario. So it bothers me. But to your point, his brilliance for that pass is just unbelievable. I mean, there's so many pictures out there where they've freeze-framed Kolasinac not even on the pitch, like in the picture, and he's making that pass. And we've seen him do it time and time again, and that's what he brings to the club. And honestly, I don't care if he does it against Burnley, Man United, the top. Like, as long as he's there and he's doing it. And I think we're a better team with him on the pitch at this time.
Yeah, and just before going to that first goal, Burnley's lineup consisted of 11 British white guys. My son comes to me last night, and he's like, do you know there's not a single person of color or even not like someone from the British Isles on that team? Not a single one. So maybe that's why they're 18th in the table right now. Anyway, so talk about the first goal. Let's deep dive this. I want you to describe it because I'm just going to sit back and touch myself.
No, I mean, like I just said, it's just absolutely brilliance. Everyone's giving Ozil the praise for the pass, but you got to give Kolasinac just so much more for making the run and knowing that it's going to be there. The ball's going to be placed for him. But the build up to it's beautiful. The fact that Ozil saw it when no one else did. The fact that we're still making the run. The ball's crossed back into the 6-yard just with speed. And you got to give credit to Aubameyang to actually get something on it because that's a really hard goal to score. But you know what, Mike? That's a team goal right there. I mean, you trust that, and that's the big thing with Ozil. These players trust that they're going to find him. If Kolasinac makes that run and Ozil doesn't find him, he probably doesn't make the run again in the game. So those are the type of things that a lot of people don't think about is you want that player to be there, and he's just an exceptional player. And no, I don't think he's worth $350 a week, as I said before, but let's move past how much money he's making because it means nothing to us.
Yeah, I don't really. The only time I think that matters is when you start to think, well, if we didn't have him anymore, what could we do with that allocation of funds? But it isn't about the judging of his worth.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. But all the people that are bitching and moaning about him being on $350 and he's not worth it, if he had walked and went to United this summer, they would have all been saying, we have no bottle, we should have paid him, blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at you, Lee Gunner, you skinny leg freak.
Oh, God. Yeah, no, we're going to talk about him actually in a minute. Apparently he did 2 hours on Tom's show tonight about Ozil, so that couldn't have gone well for Ozil. I mean, my view on the goal, I mean, I don't know if there's anyone else in the world that could make that pass. I mean, as a one-off, maybe. But, I mean, he makes that pass in training on a regular basis. Just the combination of spin, the pace, the weighting of the ball. I mean, it was ridiculous. There should be, like, a Puskas award, but, like, a Paskas award for the best passes of the year because he would have won that. Kolasinac can cut a ball back, too. I mean, we've seen him do that a number of times now. I mean, Fredo is again, making those runs forward, I kind of prefer him there to an Iwobi or like a forward player because he gets there, he cuts the passes back. I mean, other than saying me dig Bosnian stud, cutting back passes is what he does. I mean,
and I think
does he have him locked down if he's healthy?
No, and see, and that's what's so intriguing about Kolasinac. You see that attacking capability, and it fits so well in what Emery does. You look at the system with him on one side, Bellerin on the other, making those runs, cutting back in, creating stuff on the wings, and then passing into the box to find a Lacazette, to find an Aubameyang, to find an Ozil, somebody who's making a run into the box or all of a sudden finds themselves free. That's what Emery seems to be wanting to do. So looking at Kolasinac, you look at that's a great part of his attacking game, but at the same time, you also kind of go, okay, well, you know, he has those problems defensively, so you're having to balance that out. That's why I think he works so well when we have the three-man defense, because you just tell him, look, you're going to hog the left-hand line, you're going to run as much as you can, you're going to try to connect with whether it's Xhaka on your side of the midfield, or whether it's the Iwobi forward head or Aubameyang, whoever's on your side, you're going to connect with them, play those triangles, and just, you know, you're fast. You're a fast guy. You're a stronger guy than everybody up there on the wing. You know, most right backs are going up against him are going to bounce off of him. Like, he's stronger than they are, so he can bully them out the way and, you know, create that opportunity for somebody who's trailing back in the middle.
I mean, my Kolasinac jersey has been buried in the drawer for quite some time. I think it's safe to pull it back out now again. So speaking of jerseys, it's at this point in the game after the first goal that I look down and notice that 2 hours after waking up and getting dressed in the dark, I'm wearing my Xhaka kit backwards. I look down, I see 29 because it's the one from 2 seasons ago, and Xhaka on the front, and I'm like, well, I can't change it now. We just scored. There's no way I'm going to change it now. So if we do go on another 10 or 15 game unbeaten streak, expect to see plenty of pictures of me wearing backwards clothes. I will also do my jeans backwards, like crisscross, for the full,
the full back Danny making.
Exactly. Yeah, Danny make will make you jump. So this is something that I don't think I've heard discussed anywhere. But did you know that in any Premier League game this season, we had not led at halftime? This has been kept so quiet by the media, by podcasts. I mean, I couldn't believe when I heard that. But David, I mean, are we now never going to be behind at halftime again? Is it over now? Are we just going to now start leading every game at halftime and conceding points from there?
We'll do it for 22 in a row.
I actually tried to do the reverse jinx. I tweeted, like, where can I get a bet on Burnley scoring in the next 3 minutes, like in the 43rd minute, rather than the last time where I started tweeting about how we were leading at halftime and we gave up a goal in injury time. So the reverse jinx was there. But, yeah, Nacho limps off in the first half. It sucks. I hate him getting hurt. But like I said, I mean, I think it actually freed up our formation to be what I actually think our best formation is. I like the three at the back. I just wish the three at the back were actually center backs instead of midfielders and fullbacks, doing that job. But Ashley Barnes against my friend Socrates. Is Barnes ascending to the filthy bastard category of a Shawcross or Marco Rojo or Diego Costa, while also being in the we can't stop him from scoring category of a Shane Long and Charlie Austin? I mean, Andy, what is it with this mofo?
Even the commentator had said during the match that he's just a hothead of a player, and he's just very passionate. I don't think we're going to put him in I don't know enough about him, but I don't think we'll put him in like the Costas, that category just yet. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the great thing with Socrates, and I think Fredo had mentioned it before, is he did a really good job of just nitpicking the guy, of just kind of like poking and prodding the bear and then walking away. And he's really great at his after-play antics as well, because whenever something would happen and the ball went away, Socrates was again just poking the bear. And, I'm sure at halftime they went in and the manager had to say to Barnes, like, yo, just chill, like, relax. But he's a passionate guy, We need more passion in this game, Mike. Bunch of living pussies.
Well, we're replacing our pussies with dicks. We've been talking about dicks. It's kind of weird that this year, after the transfer window we had and the dicks we brought in, our sponsorship from bagadicks.com kind of fizzled out a little bit. I mean, I think the company kind of is going through some restructuring. It's a major corporate situation. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'll be bringing a bag of dicks to Gooner with me this year like I did last year, but the DVD of our summer transfer window could have easily be called Arsenal Buys a Big Bag of Dicks. Some people could claim that the quality that we bought was not that of an ambitious club, and buying a guy like Socrates, who there were a lot of questions around him about his play at Dortmund, and Lichtsteiner on a free as a 34-year-old. Whether or not you agree that was the quality we need to bring in, you have to agree that we toughened up our team by about 500% just by bringing those two guys in, and then letting them teach their dark arts trickery to Bellerin and Kolasinac and Gunnersaurus and the rest of them. Because now we got a team that doesn't roll over, in my opinion. And it comes from those two guys. I think 100% comes from those two guys. So, David, Aubameyang, another 2 goals on the day, another brace, if you will. He was on a hat trick for a while. Dude's going to have a pie at Pieberg Corner named after him by April at this pace. And unless, of course, he breaks his ankle doing a front flip after he scores, which bugs the hell out of me. Stop doing that. But, I mean, 2 pretty good finishes, pretty powerful finishes. The guy knows how to score. As many sitters as he misses, he scores.
Yeah, but he's got to be there to take the shots, and that's what you want a striker to do, is to be taking the shots. When you had Gooner on here a couple of weeks ago, he kind of said much the same thing. Your striker's got to be there to take the shots. Lacazette's in the same position. He's taking lots of shots, and I think fewer of them are coming off for him than they are for Aubameyang. And maybe that's just a matter of who's on the boil and who's not on the boil. Okay.
Sorry, you have to give me the hand signal.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, as it was
coming out,
own
bell, David.
Yeah, that bell's coming. But that's what you want. Striker's got to put himself in position to take the shots, and you want him to be ballsy enough to take them. And so he's, like with Lacazette, he's got to work his way through what feels to me like a pretty long dry spell. Not that he hasn't scored, but he's just a lot of stuff's not coming off for him here and there. And for Aubameyang, he's kind of come back on the boil, if that's an expression.
We'll call it an expression.
Yeah, we'll use it, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I do need him to just stick to funny handshakes and dressing room dancing, because this flipping thing, I mean, someone will get hurt, and it's going to suck. The Iwobi goal. Let's just talk about the third goal, because there's a little bit of a debate with this one. There's always a debate, especially when it involves Mesut Ozil. But Ozil does a great job of slicing through the defense. He's cutting in like an Arjen Robben type, except that he's not going to wind up and take that shot, which is part of the issue here. So we're waiting for him to pull the trigger. Ultimately, the ball deflects off of a defender and ends up right at Alex Iwobi's feet, and Iwobi's not going to fail to put the lotion in the basket right from there. So the debate's been raging on and on. I'm going to ask each one of you, and then I'll tell you, because we have a poll on Twitter that at our Twitter handle @theGoonersPod, about whether that was a deflected shot attempt that ended up fortunately at Iwobi's feet, or whether it was an intentionally crafted pass from Ozil to Iwobi that got some help with the deflection. The pool's still open for another 2 hours, but it's been pretty close to 50-50 the whole time. Fredo, pass or shot?
Pass. I think he means to pass. He sees Iwobi holding his run, and he's passing the ball to him.
Okay. Andy, pass or shot?
I think it's a shot that gets helped with the deflection.
Okay. David?
In the moment, I thought it was a scuffed shot. On replays, it looks like a pass, because he's made that movement to do a pass sideways in the past. I've seen it before. It didn't look like it at the moment. I think it's a pass.
I'm with you, David. There's been so many people just like slamming the fact that anyone who thinks that's a pass is ridiculous. But I initially, in the moment, thought it was a scuffed shot too. It just I couldn't have possibly seen any implication that it was a pass. And then I watched it like 15 times last night with my son Jake. We just went over and over again, and that was a pass. I mean, it wasn't if it hadn't been deflected, it might not have had the intended. I mean, it would have been very frustrating actually, because if the pass didn't connect, you don't give up a shot 8 feet from directly in front of the goal to make a pass unless the pass is going to work. But I think there was some luck involved, but I do think his intent was to pass that. And in that, he's just, I mean, it's an insane level of peripheral vision to even see that and try to pull that off. I know Steve-O doesn't agree. He's had some beers, but he feels pretty strongly that it was a shot.
The bigger debate in our pub as that match was going on, and it had started several minutes beforehand, was over actually Iwobi. He divides opinion tremendously amongst the people that I watch the matches with, and the guys that do not rate him don't think much of him. And at first they were kind of, well, I guess we have to eat some crow there. He scored a goal. And then as they were watching, they're like, wait a minute, no. Ozil put that on a platter for him. Gunnersaurus could have scored that. No, Iwobi still sucks. And they just went back down that path. I actually thought that's where you were going to go with this question, because I kind of feel like Iwobi might divide opinion more even than Ozil.
Well, he does, but that's, I mean, he's basically, if somehow Ozil and Xhaka get in a car accident together, and God forbid we lose them, Iwobi steps into the spot. So we have to keep that controversy going a little bit, the pro and anti-Iwobi. The poll started out about just exactly 50-50 online. It was 51-49 about 3 hours ago in favor of it being a pass. Then Lee Gunner retweeted it and started commenting on it, and about 300 more votes came in. It's at about 700 votes now, and it's about 54% shot. And we know that that's because of you, Lee. So, I guess you have
Agenda
influence.
Boys.
What'd you say?
Agenda boys.
So, Sean Dyche, after the match, moaning and whining. I call him Sean Douche. And so, I mean, there brings up a question from James, who was or is in the chat room with us. Sean Dyche thinks Arsenal players dived a lot. When will our club, this is interesting, when will our club ever get some real hard men of football who don't fall down when kneed in the back, elbowed in the head, two-footed across the stadium, or shot down with a cannon? James, this is, we have those guys. Have you not noticed our dicks? I mean, look at our dicks, please. Not Andy's and mine, but Arsenal's. I mean, that I think the premise of your question is wholly inadequate. But what do you think of? What do you think, Andy?
Sean Dyche impression.
That's your impression?
That's my impression of Sean Dyche. Yeah.
I actually didn't hear the interview. I saw that there were some words between Unai Emery and Dyche, which appeared to be Emery really kind of giving it to Dyche. But why do people just whine about us all the time? Why can't they just accept they got beat?
Because it's what you do against the big clubs. Like, it's always been a thing. You heard it a lot at Old Trafford, but you talk to any West Ham supporter, and they're like, well, there's already 12 men on the pitch when you go to the Emirates because, everyone thinks it's in our favor. It's just what it is, Listen, I agree with Steve. There's been a lot of bullshit challenges in that game, and to say that – or James, sorry. This is what happens when we have a chat room. I can't multitask. When we have players that get booted around, as he was suggesting, people are going to complain that we're diving. And, we saw Huddersfield came in. Let's make it physical. And Burnley wanted to do the same thing. So at the end of the day, go Dyche yourself.
Yeah, I mean, he's been on the receiving end of some real, shitty ending games the last couple of years against us, where we've pulled it out in the last few minutes under some potentially dubious circumstances. But this was not that. I think we took it. I mean, it was close in the second half, but I think we pretty much had breathing room just about the whole way. So he's got nothing to complain about.
Have you ever watched? Have you watched any other Burnley matches this season?
No.
Or last?
I do my best to avoid it.
I can't say I've studied them, but I've seen them.
Study, but you watch, maybe you watch a match here and there.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think famously last year they played Liverpool and had 12% possession or something insane, and yet somehow still pulled out a win. Right. They caught a couple on the break, but They play every single match with 10 guys behind the ball. Every single match, except this one. They came into this one going ahead and deciding it kind of pisses me off, actually, that I think about it, to be honest, because they clearly came in with a game plan to say, we're going to go at them. This is Arsenal. They're traditionally soft. We can get on them. We can do this stuff. We can shove them around. And it didn't work out for him, so it pissed him
the Troy
off.
Deeney strategy, but we're not the same team anymore.
We're not the same team anymore.
We're becoming not the same team anymore.
Right, but he kind of found that out, 1, and 2. It really kind of didn't really work out entirely. So, yeah, he was pissed off about it. So he's going to come back and still whine about the same thing. He thought he was going to put the shithousery out there, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, I completely agree. And if I'm him, I'm doing the same thing. When you see Xhaka lined up at center back, you're thinking, let's go for this, because we know Xhaka is not good enough to play in that position. He just isn't defensively minded. So I would go at him as well. But on top of that, to your point, is there was also be brutal with them, go in for challenges, be a little bit late, let them know that we're here to play and to ball. And as Mike just said, that's not this team anymore. And when you've got Socrates, Xhaka, Torreira, even the tank, I mean, you've got 4 guys right there who will step up to you. You know, if someone goes in late on Lacazette or Aubameyang, you don't hear the end of it. They're going to come over and let you know. Not on this squad. We haven't had that for a very long time. So, yeah.
Speaking of Torreira, by the way, and this was brought up in the chat by Brendan, I believe, and we were talking about this during the when the lineup came out. Torreira's on 4 yellow cards. I believe as of the 1st of January, the suspension goes from 5 to 10. So if you're still on 4, you're good. We got a game against Liverpool coming up 2 matches from now where we need that guy in that game. So, you know, the fact that he came on in the 65th minute, I almost assumed, and Brandon, you mentioned this too, I almost assumed he was just going to intentionally pick up some sort of silly yellow card at the end, time wasting or dissent or something like that, so that he could take a planned day off on Boxing Day and be ready and well rested for Liverpool. Now, I mean, I'd like to give Emery more credit than this, but if he plays at all on Boxing Day, I'm biting my fingernails the whole time that he's not going to get a yellow, because if he gets a yellow, we're going to get killed against Liverpool, in my opinion.
But Mike, you can't plan around stuff like that. I understand what you're saying, but you need the points today. You know, God, like, it's the same as saying, well, what if Liverpool go and play on Boxing Day and 3 of their players get hurt? It's what ifs. I get what you're saying, but we need to win the games now and worry about the games in front of us. And so, yeah, it would have been great for him to have picked one up, or maybe he starts and Unai says to him, hey, go in a little bit, you know, but you can't think that way. That's not how it is. So,
well, my question then is whether he plays a full 90 against Brighton. I mean, like, look, if you have to,
I think
it'd be great if he plays both games.
To rest him.
I'm sorry?
I think Brighton's a great place to give him a rest. I mean, we should go down there and handle them pretty easily, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's what we thought last year, and I went to that game and we lost 3-1. So, I mean, but it should be. They're not quite as good as they were last year either, but it should be a game where we can survive without Lucas. It's certainly between that one and Liverpool the better game to have to play without him. So, I hope they know what they're doing. If he doesn't play or just plays 20 minutes, this would not be the game for him to pick up a yellow on. But so. Speaking of strops, as we've already talked about with Sean Dyche, Lacazette had a bit of one after the game. And all last season we're talking about, well, first of all, he was doing little mini strops, like just hanging his head. And every time he got subbed by Wenger after the 70th minute, you could tell he was disappointed, but he never threw the gloves down and the arms up in the air and that sort of thing like he did yesterday. And I feel so hypocritical saying that, yeah, you like to see the fire in the guy and you don't want him to want to come out when I was just absolutely railing on Alexis last year for his body language. But yeah, I'm a hypocrite because Alexis, it pissed me off. With Lacazette, I'm not so worried about it. Fredo, the camera's just focused on him looking at it, just was it a big deal? Is it a nothing? Or do you worry that at some point there's going to start to be a little bit of degeneration to the whole Aubameyang-Lacazette thing because of the fact that Lacazette seems to be the second best at this point?
Not at all. And going back to your Alexis example, I think there's a clear difference where I think Lacazette is looking at himself and going, I'm going through one of those rough patches, going through those dry spells, and I'm trying to play my way out of them and get back in form to be producing for the team. I think Alexis's body language last season was all about, I want to get out of here. I want to do well enough so I can get my big money move away from. I'm not getting that. So, people are not going to come buy me. They're not going to come give me the money that I want. So there's a difference between what Lacazette's doing now and what Alexis did last year. That said, it's going to get blown up because it got caught up by the cameras. It's going to get blown up because it's the holiday season and you need a story. And, when Ozil started, so clearly that story's out of the way for the moment. So this is your next big story for the moment. So
Lacazette is the Grinch that stole Christmas, I guess.
Right. Right now it's the big deal, and then he comes in and scores 2 against Brighton, and it'll all be forgotten. So
yeah. Lacazette missed a couple chances. He was snatching, and in a match where he feels like he can score, getting pulled. I mean, you want to, as Fredo said, he's kind of down on his luck right now. I don't see it as anything more than frustration with the chances that he missed in the match, not the fact that he got substituted. I mean, any professional player understands what they're walking into the next 2 weeks. I mean, it's football almost every other day, right? And so all Unai has to say to him is, we're resting you. But I think it's more frustration out of how he played in that game, because there were 1 or 2 moments where he could have just put the ball in the back of the net simply, and the ball just didn't fall to him, So he's trying to get off the mark, and as a professional, I see it as him just being frustrated with himself.
Yeah, I would think that, except for some of the things. I mean, he was clearly directing some of those gestures at the coaching staff and other people on the bench, rather than be just.
We don't know that. We don't know the
I know that. I talked to him after the game, and he told me so. So we do know that. But fair enough. Man of the match in this game. There's a few that could probably be talked about. If you want to chime in the chat room, let us know who your man of the match is. But we'll start with you, David. When you unmute yourself, who's your man of the match and why in this one?
I wouldn't argue against Kolasinac, I guess. That's what everybody. He got man of the match, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was the official one, but
he was officially it. I kind of feel. I honestly feel like maybe Socrates had more of an influence on more of what we were doing and more effect of what the other team was doing too. And then I saw something after the match that showed his stats, and I normally don't give 2 shits about what the stats are after the fact, but he won like 7 out of 7 aerial duels and won 11 of 11 tackles. All of his stats were just like beautifully perfect, which kind of backed it up to a degree. But I feel like he was pretty commanding, and particularly once Monreal went out, it was really important for him to do that. So I think an argument could be made for him.
Good shout. All right, so you're still saying he's honorable mention though to Kolasinac, or are you?
I'm not going to
basically picking 2 people.
No, what I'm saying is I'm not ballsy enough to walk up to Kolasinac and say, "Give me the damn thing," because I'm giving it to somebody else.
Okay, Andy, who's your man of the match? Leno.
Yeah. No.
It's always the goalkeeper.
No mistakes in this one, so he gets the man of the match. No, I'm gonna go with Ozil. I thought that he produced enough to create 2.5 of the goals, because you don't get the old hockey assist in the league. But to Lee Gunner's point, it really made me laugh. And Lee and I are friends, and we talk about this offline. But he said something along the lines of, "Stats don't matter if your whole game is shit." Well, I disagree with that, because if in a game of 0-0 and you create an assist or a goal within the 95th minute, it totally matters. Statistics totally matter. So I thought there were a lot of great performances, but I'm going to go with Ozil on this one.
Okay, before I go to you, Fredo, David, piece of advice for you. Apparently, for your wife, goals do it for her. So she's going with Aubameyang. But anytime someone is married to one of our guests and puts in our chat room, X does it for me, I feel the duty to let you know that. So enjoy scoring goals tonight.
Yeah,
after the pod. Fredo, you're man of the match.
Well, actually, Lori just took it from me. It's kind of tough to in a match where you have 4 goals, kind of hard to go against the guy who's got 2 of them. So Aubameyang, clearly. And right now he's, we're talking just a moment ago about, like I said, and how he's trying to force his way back into goal-scoring form. Right now, Aubameyang is scoring for fun. I mean, he's got 2 here. He's leading the league. He's doing. Thank you. He's doing. He's doing everything.
Not a compliment. You just said it. I wasn't giving you any kind of compliment. It was just that you said.
Yeah, no, I know. So no, I mean, he's doing everything that you want a 56 million pound striker to do, which is lead the line, bury the ball in the back of the net, and just get you the 3 points.
Absolutely. So for me, I'm going to agree with Ryan Lordos in the chat, and Ryan is, despite what I said in our WhatsApp chat that he was Argentinian, he's actually Greek in descent. So he's going with his friend Socrates, and I'm going to join him in that because it wasn't so much that he created in that game; it's what the ability for him to dictate the tone of the game and to keep us. And again, we're going to talk about how previous years we might have conceded the second and gone on to drop points in that one. I attribute it to Socrates that that the team just has a different mentality. I got to stop drinking soda. And so he's my man of the match. We got some new people in the chat. We got Robbie, who is Hungarian Robbie from London, who's up in the middle of the night with us. Steve-O is still up in the middle of the night with us. We got Ryan Lordos joining us in the chat. Thank you for coming in. Kenya from San Antonio joined in. Sam Rogers as well. So Sebi's in there. So thanks for joining us in the chat and for participating. And we're going to go to some if you can hit thumbs up. We got 6 thumbs up, and I think 5 of them are me. So if you can hit the thumbs up, that helps us. Just makes us feel better about ourselves, which is really what this whole podcast is about. So let's go into user questions. Again, I had some talking points I wanted to talk about, but as with always, they're too long and too controversial. So go to some user questions, and then we'll turn it into a night. Karen McCollum.
Review ahead of time?
What did you say?
All these were approved ahead of time, right?
Yeah, I didn't have to do that in this podcast like I did in the last podcast.
Do we get to talk about the ones that weren't asked?
Yeah, we could. I'm just not really prepared to at the moment because I don't have them printed up. But
favorite one, the favorite one that I wrote.
A prelogue to this is we did, and we're not, let's say, at the point where we can dictate content to guests who are maybe very well known or famous. We were asked to kind of run some of the questions by his staff, John Burkhouse staff, before being able to talk about them, because we didn't want it to turn uncomfortable with him hanging up in the middle or shit going on Sky Sports or the press turning it into a whole big thing. Although that would have been great for us, it wouldn't have been great for him. So yes, we did run them by, and a few of your questions, Dave, were let's just say we were politely asked not to ask them.
They would have kept you out of the UK, huh?
Yeah.
There was one about Harry Kane.
That was my favorite. That one was my favorite.
And what was the question again?
The question was, does the speaker ever hear an interview with Harry Kane and think to himself, when I get back to work this weekend, we have got to do something about the state of the education system in this country?
Yeah, that one they wanted to stick away from. There were a couple other ones that we got the little highlighter that said, please, it would be preferable if you did not ask this one. But
what does Jose Mourinho have to do to get deported?
Oh, yeah.
That's that one. And I understand why, but the irony was you guys interviewed him on the day that Mourinho got fired.
That is true. Yeah, we talked.
It was the day of, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't see him really commenting on deportation and immigration policy during the Brexit.
Exactly. There's no way he's getting anywhere near that.
All right. So if anyone in the chat room wants to add a question, we had some that were sent in ahead of time, but if you send one in, just start it with a big Q, and then we'll try to ask it. But Kerry McCollum said the last time we lost 2 straight matches, we followed up with a 22-game unbeaten run. That is true. How long does the next run go? And those matches we lost 2-0 and 3-2, just like the 2 that we lost last week. Personally, I think the next run goes 2 games. This one that we just finished, the next one, and then maybe it might be over right there. But since we have a trip to Liverpool coming up, and Andy, is it possible that we can do another 22 games?
No, I agree with you. I think we lose at Liverpool, especially if we have Xhaka playing in the back. Not a diss on him. It's just, you can't have him playing against that team. But I don't think we go on 22-game runs again, Mike. I think that a realistic target for us now is win until Liverpool, give them a good game, and then we fight for third.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of.
I think that's realistic for us.
It's not going to be any higher than third. That's that much we know. From FC,
the other aspect to that too, actually, is that we don't get 6 matches somewhere deep in the Carpathian Mountains against a team that no one's ever heard of and won't be televised, and they can just come back and say, "Hey, we won." So advancing in Europa League actually has a disadvantage in that regard.
That's true. That's true. Andy, I've noticed the same thing Laurie has, which is you look very tired, and it's the earliest of any of us of our time frames. Yeah, people have tuned in at 2:30 in the morning to watch you.
And I apologize. Mike has like behind the curtain of the flu bug that my son has passed around this house that just doesn't want to leave.
Oh, so it's making a second run? Is that
yes,
what's going on?
Yeah, but sorry, I will.
Jeez, Laurie. Way to pile on to the man while he's suffering. All right, it's from FC at FCABRAO. I love new questioners coming in with new questions. He says, I'd rank transfer squad priority in this order: center defense, left back, striker. Interesting. A wide player and central midfield are also needed, but I'm putting a lot of faith in Nelson when he comes back, and we've got good youth at central midfield. David, do you agree with the order here of center back, left back, striker?
Central defense, obviously. I mean, that's got to be first, right? Left back, yeah, because Monreal's already kind of got to the point where we need the next one. I don't know about striker.
I mean, have we been able in the last 10 years to be like, oh yeah, we've got a rich of
we've just spent $100 million on strikers. What more can we do?
Yeah, we can't figure out how to get our strikers into the game at the same time. So I'm not quite sure. At this point, if you offer Lewandowski to me for $20 million and say, can you find a way to make this work? Sure. But
you bring in a striker of that quality, one of those two is out. So I don't think that should be a priority. I would say a replacement for Iwobi.
What?
So we know which half of the debate at David's pub you fall to.
Iwobi is not good enough.
You accused me of hating him. You've always hated him.
Iwobi is not good enough at this time to help us win matches at the highest level. There's too many opportunities where he gets the ball at his feet and he runs directly into players. He's a very talented player, but we need someone in this squad who is an out-and-out guaranteed starter in this 11 and can change matches. And Iwobi, for me, isn't that player. So I would say that we bring in a left winger that could take over, and then Iwobi, for me, is probably a 6 or 7 on the bench, and we bring him in when we just need something different or we need to give someone a rest. But there are a ton of left wingers I would bring in over Iwobi. Sorry, Ziegler. I see your face.
You're the Lee Gunner of Iwobi. you're Andy Gunner.
I'm saying I think a talented player, but I still stick to what I've said, Mike, the last season and a half. He needs to be sent out on loan where he's playing 90 minutes a match. He's the big fish in a small pond, and he gets that. Like, there's too many opportunities where he gets the ball and he runs directly at a defender. He loses possession. It's like he gets into the 18-yard box and then he just gives the ball away, and he just needs more time. And I think for us to compete with the Cities and Liverpools, he doesn't allow us to do that. He's not good enough at this time.
I could buy that. we said the same thing about Theo Walcott. Like, are you going to get better by having this guy be your
The
regular
number
starter?
one. No.
Yeah.
And David, you're more than welcome to comment on it. I that's just how I feel at this present time, and I think he's one of the most improved players next to Bellerin under this current management. So I hope he continues to grow. I just don't think he leads us to that championship.
I don't want him to start every match. I mean, I completely agree with you there. I don't want him to start every match for us. I want him to get lots of playing time, so I get torn on that. I don't know if going out on loan is a great answer for him. Maybe it is. But to go back to the original user question, with striker being third, one thing I would point out is that our two main strikers are 30 and 28. And then the next guy after that is Welbeck, who's gone. I'm not going to see him anymore. And then after that, it's Nketiah, who's 19. So we do have a little bit of a gap in that kind of pure striker spot that we need someone to be developing. So if what the user is asking in terms of saying striker being third, well, I couldn't remember who you said it was. I'm sorry. Who was it that asked the question?
It was at FCA Brow.
Okay, so
someone who we haven't really communicated with.
Yeah, that's why I didn't know. If their suggestion is that the third priority needs to be maybe to find the next Kylian Mbappe and put him on the bench behind, or put him in the lineup occasionally on the left wing or something else, and start to work him in so that in a couple of years, when Aubameyang is done and Lacazette's at 31 or something, that he's stepping up and becoming great, then yeah, I would agree with that. And if that also means like it's a Jadon Sancho who comes in and plays on the left wing and Iwobi doesn't play as much, then I would actually start to fall to agree with Andy. But I do think Iwobi's got something, but it's not striker. It's something kind of different.
No, definitely.
And I think that from a striker perspective, when we're looking at 2 seasons, 3 seasons down the road, that shouldn't be the number one. That shouldn't be a top 3 for now. Like, we have other gaping holes for us to focus on. So I hope that they're working on that, not behind the scenes.
Some of which have been sent in the WhatsApp chat.
Right. But I'm hoping that when they look at the age of our strikers, they say to themselves, yeah, we need more. I agree with Canton. And Nketiah, I don't think is going to be a good enough player. You can just tell from the lack of runs, his forward movement, his inability to have the ball find him. I don't see it being him.
Is he Chuba Abcom 2.0?
Maybe. But for me, I would say a winger on either side with those other 2 positions.
Let me ask a question. Right quick, Mike, because the user asked about left back. What about keeping Maitland-Niles and asking him to be that left back deputy? Just because I'm looking at him. He's a central midfielder. We have Xhaka, Torreira, Guendouzi. He's not leaping those guys any moment soon.
I thought Niles played. I thought he was brilliant. I thought he was unbelievable playing at the weekend. Yeah, I mean, he was making full runs. Defensively, he played well. I think that he could. And Fredo brings up a good point. Under this management, he could be a potential to slot in those 2 positions, and we're comfortable.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you. I mean, I thought he, and along with one other, specifically Mr. Granit Xhaka, were not the strongest yesterday. I mean, Xhaka was awful yesterday. You can't debate me on that.
No,
it was not a good game from him yesterday.
But look at those 2 players, Mike. What do they have in common? They're both playing.
They both play for Arsenal.
They're both playing in positions they're not 100% comfortable.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, you can't fully attribute it to just lack of skill, but and Mainsley's just been, he's kind of been the ultimate utility man, as we use a baseball term, where he's just getting plugged in. I guess kind of you could say his treatment has been a lot like what Chambos was before he left. I don't believe that we need to be putting him in central midfielder, but I do believe we need to be picking one place and letting him do it, and that may be right wing back when we play 3 in the back. So I don't
put him either on the right or tell him, look, we got Kolasinac, we got the tank, and we got Nacho, who is in his mid-30s, and realistically, if he's going to have any further play time with Arsenal, he's going to slot more towards the central defense if we keep that thing. defense, three-man center half. So he can play either one of those positions down. Develop there. You have a spot where you could be the guy 3-4 years down the road, as opposed to trying to fight your way through Xhaka, through Torreira, through Guendouzi, through whoever else comes down, Joe Willock, whoever else is coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, I do think we need to kind of find a replacement for Nacho before Nacho needs to be replaced. And because especially when we do play four at the back, Kolasinac, as we know, is not that strong in that setup. So if Nacho isn't healthy and Kolasinac is forced to play there, we're at a deficit. We need a true left back that we can play in a back four when we don't have Nacho healthy. And I don't know if this kid Osei Tutu from the that just sounds like something that should get the bell. Whether he is ready or even close to being ready, but that I would agree that's the center back. That's the obvious one, but left back I think is a priority. Steve-O thinks it's a priority. So much where he'd send Mainsley on loan. I disagree with you there.
Here's my question around the transfer window. Does this transfer window get a little bit halted when we look at attacking players because of Reece Nelson and how much he's doing at Hoffenheim? Because if you're Unai and your team, you're looking at how well he's doing. Now, granted, it's Bundesliga. It's a completely different league. But the guy is just being exceptional. So,
what kind of league are you saying that it is?
I'm not saying it's a feeder league, but the physicality and just the speed of play is so different to the Premier League. But do we halt our transfer proceedings, or is he one of those players where we just say, hey, let's see what happens when he gets back to us in the summer? Can he transition that? And if so, great, we have great depth. Because he's another player that's going under the radar that we could probably desperately use right now.
I don't know that we're really looking that much at attacking players in January, especially anyway, other than if there's just a deal you can't pass up on a wide winger with pace and, the guy that we've all been waiting for, the Dembele type, although it's not going to be Dembele. And again, I don't think that we're going to make that move in January because of the fact that Reece Nelson's coming back, because of the fact that, our formation sometimes if we play two up top like we have been, that doesn't necessarily lend itself to that. So, I think our transfer policy in general in January, and Unai Emery's pretty much said as much, is going to be very, very, very cautious because, and I will go into one of my general talking points, would you rather see Medley, whatever his name is, playing at center back, not against Liverpool maybe, but, against Brighton or against somebody else, rather than Xhaka, Elneny, Monreal playing out of position? To me, in this season, in this one experimental season where, finishing third or fourth would be massive, but it isn't necessarily, the expectation. This is when I'd like to see what our youth players who are kind of borderline can do in those situations rather than we've seen how, out of practice and kind of decrepit Koscielny, God rest his soul, has done in the games that he's been playing in. We've seen how Xhaka does when he's playing out of position. Could it be any worse starting youth? If you're going to drop points because of having injury-ravaged, suspension-ravaged back lines, would you rather see people who might not be ready yet playing in their proper position or people who are being pulled out of their proper position to play in another area?
The worst thing you could do to one of those kids is throw him into a match and have him be absolutely embarrassed and destroy confidence. It's way more than just saying, hey, we have a center back who's 17. We have Xhaka, who's a central midfielder. There's way more to it than that. If you look at City's defenders, Mangala, Otamendi, Mende, Laporte, Stones, Kompany, Danilo, Walker, that's what we need. We need depth. We need players that go to their international teams, that play every week, every time there's a call up, they're getting a phone call. That's what it takes for us to get to that level. We can't be risking youth. There's just too much. Guys, look at our fan base, man. We can't even
That's the thing. That's the crux of the question.
Yeah. We can't live with Mesut Ozil making $350 a week. Can you imagine if a 17-year-old slips and a Brighton player goes through and we lose 1-0, that kid will never hear the end of it.
I don't know that, and I don't know the ages of those two. I saw Pleguezuelo or whatever his name is play against Blackpool, and it was Blackpool, but he looked a good, promising player in that game. Again, I agree with you, and I think the biggest deal is that you're right. The fans are not necessarily ready to have that level of patience on the whole. Some are, some aren't, but you're absolutely right about that. I don't know that these guys are 17. They might be 20. They might be 21. They're in the U23s. But I just, at some point, when you keep buying depth on top of promising young players, at what point are you just tossing your academy away? And frankly, if there was, I'd agree with you 100% if this were any season other than this season. I feel like this season's almost that proverbial free pass. And I know most fans won't look at it that way. And the fact that we're actually competing for top 3 and top 4 has changed it a little bit. But David,
Mike,
I want to try to get some of these other opinions.
Just 1 second, and then David jump in after me. I completely agree with you. Had the season not had that 22 unbeaten run or 23, because now we're in a position where it's like, hey, third place is definitely in the mix for us. Had we gone through and we won 2, we lost 3, we won 4, and then like, hey, now we've got it, but now we don't have that. If you're Emery, you're going to the Kroenke saying you want Champions League football, we're damn close. I need X, Y, or Z to make that happen. And so for me, this isn't now a season where we get to muddle around with the youth players. Like, it's all in. And if maybe by January 30th we are 15 points off of 4th place, then yeah, we maybe play around with it. But right now we're in the mix and we're going for gold. So we got to keep going. And we need to buy players.
David. What do you think on that?
It's an odd point because it is a season of change, but we've been in this position for several years coming into transfer windows where all of the conversation is around who do you want to buy, who do you want to buy, who do you want to buy, who are we going to add, what are we going to take. So we're going to get Karim Benzema, and we're going to get Nabil, what's his name, from Lyon, and we're going to add Malcolm before he moved to Barcelona. We're going to add this guy, that guy, this guy, that guy. There's never a conversation about, if you add players, you have to subtract some. There are players in the squad right now. You can only name 25 players over 21 years old. We have 25 named players over 21. You've got to get rid of some. And I don't know that I actually think Emery came in. I think Emery came into the job, though, with a plan to do something with a few changes, but a plan to do something with the squad that he was inheriting, as opposed to some of the managers that were bigger names, perhaps, that you could have hired who'd say, give me £300 million, I'm going to turn over half of the squad, and then I'm going to do something, and all those players will be 30 years old and leaving anyway. I don't think, and now he's said it. Now Emery has said it. I don't see a really busy January. I don't think he planned a busy January. I think we'll see a busy summer. I think there's going to be a lot of players going out over a little bit of time. I think the bridge to some deals later and to some development later is going to be more of the kids, more of the academy players. You mentioned Medley and Julio something, and some other guys in the back. Go ahead, what?
Pleguezuelo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that guy. I like that. It really sounds good when he says it too. The bridge was clearly going to be those guys. He's naming them more frequently. He's pulling out some more of the academy kids that I don't think anybody was talking about previously, but I think he clearly was planning on using those guys. Whether it's the right answer or not, I don't know. But there's going to be departures, and I think before we even talk about what do we need to add, you have to almost consider what's the departure that goes on.
You're going to have Welbeck departing. You're going to have Ramsey departing, so that's 2, and 2 big wages off the way bill. No, but, I mean, depending on – you can unregister players in January, and Welbeck will be unregistered, so that's a player that we can add right there.
Ozil will be gone.
Well, maybe. Who knows, Mike? I mean, just because he started and got the captain's armband, and we don't know. But Ramsey could leave in January. Like, what if Bayern came in and just said, "Hey, we're going to take him on loan and pay you guys $500,000 a month"? Why won't we take that? right? So we can unregister players. So to David's point, it's a good point. We have to get rid of players, but we will be able to free up Welbeck. So that gives us at least a center back to come in if need be. Maybe we sell like, I don't know. It's an interesting point, but I think we at least free up 1 or 2 in January.
A lot of interesting names of defenders being bandied about in the chat. Robbie points out that Diego Godin, is going to be a free agent by the end of the season. Felipe Luis, even Toby Alderweireld, I believe, is going to be a free agent. So, I don't know. It should be an interesting January transfer window, but anybody who's expecting like deals early in the window to be done and big names to be coming in, I think is going to be sorely disappointed. Let's move on with some questions. We got from Sebi. He says, in 2017, it was, you want Wenger to stay, fuck you. In 2018, it was, you want Ozil to start, fuck you and die. What the hell is the matter with us? Says Sebi. Why is everything a travesty? It's Christmas, damn it. And then he adds the hashtags, why can't we all just get along, agree to disagree, Gooner family. Yeah, I think we pretty much covered the fact that we're never going to get away from just having to have some controversial topic where people can – I mean, it wouldn't be any fun if we were all just happily getting along and excited. I mean, I almost thought we had that earlier in the season, but then the Ozil situation cropped up. But if it's not Ozil, it'll be Xhaka. If it's not Xhaka, it'll be Iwobi. If it's not Iwobi, it'll be Bellerin. So that's just Arsenal for you, Sebs.
Let me add something to that, because I think there's another point too, and I think it's in all seriousness. I actually don't think it's because the Arsenal fan base is all that divisive. I think it's because the Arsenal fan base, perhaps maybe more than some other clubs, has a tendency to turn to one another and say, you're wrong, and here's why, and whatever else it might be. And I mean that in the sense of debating about a player, Wenger in, Wenger out kind of conversations. No, we should, respect him. No, hell, it's the club's bigger. The argument was always about people trying to correct one another and say, this is the best way for us to be us. And I say that very specifically because there was, I don't want to spend any time on it really, but I just want to mention it. There was at least one ugly incident in the Tottenham match midweek in the stadium amongst our Arsenal fans. Yeah. It was reported in the press. And the club, it was one of our fans doing something nasty. The club said, we don't have a record of it. No, there wasn't that. It was something else.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
The club said, we don't have any record of anyone being ejected for saying that to the Tottenham fans. We do have a record of a fan leaving of his own volition after a confrontation with his fellow supporters.
Some self-policing, actually.
It was literally the Arsenal fans policing themselves. And I think that carries over to things like the Wenger in, Wenger out nonsense. It got so heated because people thought they were right and they felt like they were correcting their family. I want you to feel the same way I do. And the same thing goes on with Ozil and every other debate we seem to get into. We just, maybe more than other teams, tend to argue with one another more often, as opposed to have divisive opinions or negative opinions.
Well, that's an interesting take on it. I mean, I just think we just can't live without having something to gripe about in a lot of cases, and even the people who
that's also criticize the natural state of a football fan, though. The natural state of a football fan is misery, and
the people who criticize people for that are then themselves also being divisive and ugly and name. I mean, it's a rabbit hole that you can't ever get out of. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
So next question from Mike Hernandez, and this is a name that we haven't brought up yet in all of our discussions about a center back. If we bring back another center back in January, is that the end of Callum Chambers' Arsenal career? Personally, I think. This is his question. Personally, he thinks he deserves an opportunity under Unai, under JCC, and the rest of the team. I think his Arsenal career is already over. But Fredo, will that be the? I mean, will they not just be bringing him back next summer and giving him a chance to get in the lineup if we bring in another center back?
Realistically, and look, this goes. Chambers is a perfect example of Andy's point earlier about a young kid being played, having a horrible one single game, and next thing you know, his career is always like there's always before Jefferson Farfan, and then afterwards when he got eaten up alive on the right back. he does not seem to have done much at Fulham. Fulham's a mess.
He's not even getting starts, and they're the worst defense in the Premier League possibly ever, and he's not even deemed good enough to start.
Yeah, which tells you basically everything you really need to know. I mean, I really thought when there was the preseason and he was playing, I thought, oh, maybe Emery sees something in him. This is, I thought he and Holding would start as deputies to Mustafi and Socrates until one of them would fight their way in. I thought that was the way it was going to go. And then he goes on loan. That tells me he just said either he didn't want to sit, or Emery thought, I can do, I got Holding, I'm good. So I think he's a talented kid, but I don't see his future being at Arsenal. Let's be fair about that.
Yeah, probably not, and probably won't get back the money that we spent on him originally at the time, which was a surprising number. I think it was the 16 million or something. 2 questions from Herbinho, then we'll go to a little mini raft of questions from David, for David from Brian Whitner, and then we'll wrap it up. Herbinho at Herb Goonster says, Mesut was made captain and played well. I honestly fear that his lack of playing time may be due to mental health issues. The club would never report this, but do you think my theory may have any credence? I've been saying this all along, that I don't buy the back spasms thing a bit. I don't think it's back spasms. I mean, I'm no doctor. I've had back spasms periodically throughout my career of sitting in chairs, but it just seems like there's something more like that they're hiding, that it's something that Mesut doesn't want getting out. It's either an autoimmune disease like Crohn's that flares up kind of unexpectedly periodically, or mental illness, depression or something that, again, stress exacerbated conditions is what I suspect, not necessarily back spasms. Because when he comes in and plays, and you see what he's capable of doing over the weekend, I mean, that's somebody who's in a good place, not just temporarily recovered from back spasms, in my mind. So I think there's a lot to that. Anyone believe that it is back spasms and that's all it is, Andy?
Look, maybe not. And again, who knows? Who gives a shit? I will say this. If you're Mesut Ozil and you have the platform of 30+ million Instagram, Twitter followers, and you have the voice, like, mental health today has like a different kind of like stigma, right? And I feel like there are way more people that step up and talk about it. And I feel like for someone of his ability and his kind of leadership potential that he would have, like the whole Germany thing, he could have kept quiet about the racism. He saw it. He spoke up about it. I don't see him not speaking up about mental health. If he came out and said, hey, I suffer with mental health, what type of a leader is he going to be to those millions of followers? Because a lot of people suffer with it. And so they can genuinely look at him as a human being and go, I go through the same thing as him. He has the voice to do that. And I don't think he would shy away from using that voice, knowing who he is as a person off the field. So there has to be something going on. And I feel like if he had mental health issues, I feel like he would be very forward and upfront about those. And if you're a club, why wouldn't you also back that? Why wouldn't you go to Ozil and say, hey, we're going to partner with you to help people and do a reach out? Because
I have no question Arsenal would do that.
No, exactly. So it's such a prevalent thing, and he's got such a voice. And we've seen it with the German squad. I mean, he could have kept his mouth shut. He'd still be playing for them, but he didn't do that. I broke my back about 5 years ago, and there are days where I literally cannot walk, and it hurts. The last 2 years it's flared up because I'm carrying around the 24-pound sack of like potatoes, basically. And I have to see a therapist for it. I got to get massage once a week. It sucks, but the worst thing you can do, Mike, is like steroid shot it. So if a doctor goes to him and says you have these back issues, but we can't keep giving you steroid shots, so we do it once and then it lasts for 2 months, something's going on. But I don't know if we have to go to the absolute extreme. You know what I mean? Because I feel like he's got the platform to take that issue and go, hey, I suffer from it too. And I don't think he would be above that. I really don't. But something is going on. I mean, It could be something as common as Crohn's disease, because, like, as we know, we have a friend who suffers from it. It can debilitate you for days. I mean, it's a serious thing.
And then you could be perfectly. I mean,
you could be perfectly normal. Now, we have a friend who shares that with us because he might not be comfortable, because that's a very kind of unique disease, and it's not the most flattering of diseases, and it can be embarrassing. So
he actually tweeted about it yesterday, actually. But, but by the same token, I mean, he's not in the spotlight.
He doesn't have 30+ million people.
Exactly.
So, you know, and make chants about him every week. So that's all I'm saying is I think there's enough football players who have come out and said, you know, and keep in mind, like, one of Ozil's friends killed himself with the German national team about 7 or 8 years ago, and he spoke out about that just recently for one of the memorials. And so there's just I don't see him. It can't be that serious, because I feel like he would attack that.
I don't mean to be smiling and laughing through the last part of this very serious conversation, but Joey Murphy in the chat room, I have to get a massage once a week. It sucks. That's like, is that not the most Andy thing that you've ever heard? I also, as a result of these back spasms, have to get a twice weekly pedicure, and I'm just miserable about it. But
well, that's by choice.
All right, so
this question about Ozil, though, we've had it here locally in San Antonio. I've heard it from people in other branches too. Not, you know, it's a really good question, because I've heard the exact question a million times. You know, just, is there something else going on with him that we don't know about? Is there something else that's being not disclosed? And of course, and then you sit back, and as a fan, as a Gooner, he's a Gooner, you think, man, I wish I could sit down with him and just say, dude, are you okay? Do you need anything? I mean, you would do that out of, like, you know, just concern. But yeah, I've heard that from a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I get upset when people who are generally anti-Ozil, you know, they just don't care what the reason is. It doesn't matter whether he has back spasms, whether he has mental health issues, whether he has a disease, or whether, you know, they'll just say he's weak. He's, you know, whatever it is. And that bugs me, because, you know, there are mitigating factors sometimes. And I feel a lot of, you know, I'm not the healthiest guy myself. I don't know if anyone's noticed that or not. It doesn't, you know, I look like Hercules, but you know, so I have sympathy for somebody who's in that position. But what bothers me is just the fact that there's just drama follows him. There's a lot of secrecy. There's a lot of will he, won't he? You know, whose decision is it? And it seems like the one, other than the Rambo contract situation, which is kind of quiet right now, it seems like the one thing that is just keeping us from this fast forward into the Emery era.
But is it, Mike? Because that affects you. That doesn't affect the players. The other guys in the locker room are fully.
It only matters that it affects me.
But the other players in the locker room are fully aware of what's happening with Ozil every week. They know him personally. Yeah, of course they do. So if he has, let's say, Crohn's disease, if he has mental disorder, they're his friends, they're his colleagues. They likely know what's going on. So it might not affect them. They might see him in a bad spot and go, we just assume he's not going to be playing this week. I know, and I say this not to pick on you, but you love the drama of the clickbait media, Mike. You buy into it. And so it's part of what Arsenal is. I get that. But at the end of the day, we don't know what's happening behind closed doors, and we can't say it's holding us back from going on this beautiful run. You know what's holding us back? Not having a fucking central defender and having Xhaka having to step in every week. That's what's holding us back. And I ask you this. Is it because it's Mesut Ozil, he's a World Cup winner, he's our highest paid player, that this is making news headlines every week? Because if it were, say, Iwobi or a player who's a squad player, do we give it this much attention?
No, nor would it be normal for anybody to. I mean, it is, of course, important because he is the supposed talisman of this team. And it was the same with Germany. I mean, what happened with Germany, I think, was disgusting. And I do believe him. You know, I think he was misunderstood. His comments were misunderstood.
I liken it to Sanchez last season. He became a cancer to our team, and you could tell that when he left, and no one said goodbye. If Ozil were to leave in January, I'm sure everyone would have messages and videos saying goodbye to him. The club would do something as a send-off. So I don't think it affects, like, as you were saying, my point is I don't think it's a Sanchez situation where our team see it as a cancer and the players absolutely hate being around him and there's no camaraderie. I mean, look at El Nini last year trolling the dude at every moment he could. El Nini plays 5 matches a season and he got into it. So I just think that we can't say it's derailing our opportunities to move forward at this moment.
Yeah, all right.
You know,
well, it does kind of. I just don't like the drama. I've clicked on 95 articles and they all agree with me.
I don't like the drama, but I want to keep reading about it.
There's something not visible about the whole thing because Wilshire would lose matches left and right, and they go, "Yep, of course, there we go, the glass ankle or this or that or whatever." Abu Dhabi, a very visible injury that created a cascade of issues, and the issues were still kind of not that visible, but it was understood at least to a degree. With Ozil, it's not like we saw him get his leg broken and he's worked his way back from it, and now we don't know what we don't know. But it also comes out really weird, and it's been handled poorly on a few occasions. There was about this time last season, I think Wenger just gave him the week off. The team was going somewhere. He literally just gave him the week off. And he pops up on Instagram in Turkey with his fiance.
Yeah, I remember that.
I thought you were like the back spasm thing again or something. No, it was just a vacation. What the hell is that? He's far more visible. And there's something that's not kind of really quite understood as to why he's out.
So two quick things before we move on. First of all, we have to recognize that Ozil himself is a brand in a way that just about everybody else, not named Mesut Ozil, at Arsenal is. He's on the level of Ronaldo, Neymar, Messi. He puts his name on a T-shirt and it sells.
Yep.
Nobody's buying a Mohamed El Neni T-shirt. Nobody's buying an Alex Iwobi T-shirt just because Alex Iwobi writes his name on it. Ozil has a following that's global, and that brings both the attention, positive, and the negative. Let's be fair. That's part of the dynamic for both. The other thing I was going to point out, and kind of to follow up with Andy, and what he said was, didn't Per Mertesacker earlier this year put out a book where he discussed some of his own mental health issues? So he had an opportunity there if he wanted to piggyback off and say, I have a mental health issue as well. I'm supporting my friend. I'm stepping out. He could have done that. So maybe it is a mental health issue and he's not ready to step forward. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's another condition similar to Crohn's or another autoimmune disease or something else. I mean, to be fair,
I think it's just impossible to know at what point a person would be comfortable coming forward. I mean, it's easy to say he could piggyback on that and he couldn't, but until you're in that situation with that much of a spotlight on you.
But on the flip side of it is, let's not use mental health because I think that's something that we should tread lightly on. But let's say it's like a Crohn's disease or an autoimmune disease. Then the argument becomes, well, if we knew he had it, why are we paying him $350 a week? And that becomes the next argument is, well, if we know that he's only going to play 60% of the games, is he worth that? And at the end of the day, that's a different argument and conversation altogether. But there's just so many sides to this. And I guess what Mike, what me, Fredo, and David are trying to say is stop the drama, stop the clickbait media.
Listen, when you spend as much time in the bathroom as I do, you need to be clicking on shit. So on articles, I mean. So look, it's just I can't help it. I need to find out what John Cross and Miguel Delaney have to say, and I'm not going to do it, when I'm not sitting on the toilet. So
Look, I love Ozil, but if tomorrow the offer came where we could get a world-class, like World Cup playing center back and winger for what we would pay his wages on, it meant Ozil had to leave, I would take it in a heartbeat because that's what's best for Arsenal. But that's not the world we live in, and so at this point, we just got to support him when he's on the pitch. And he's like Fredo said, he is a brand, and he helps Arsenal make money, and there's that complete argument to it as well.
Yeah, no, that could be a whole nother wing of the argument. Another question from Herbinho, and this will just be a quick one. Fredo, it's May 19th, or I'm sorry, it's May 2019. You have to choose between Arsenal finishing fourth. This is the old debate: finishing fourth or winning the FA Cup, one or the other. Choose now and explain why. Fool. I don't know why he's calling us fools. I mean, we
are.
That's pretty
we are fools.
Self-apparent. It didn't need to be pointed out. But so, do you take fourth place, or do you take the FA Cup if in some mythical situation you had to choose one?
If the choice is one or the other, I take fourth place. And I do it not because I don't think the FA Cup is not an awesome trophy. It is. I do it because I'm looking at the next 5 years of Arsenal. Being in the Champions League is a world of difference from being in the Europa League. Being in the Champions League means you can go to Jadon Sancho and say, hey, come to Arsenal. You can go to another world-class center half and say, come to us, play for us. We're building something. There's a reason why Liverpool spent so much money to get back into it. There's a reason why Chelsea and City, when they got their money, threw millions of pounds at the problem, because you want to be at the top table, at the very top, and that's the Champions League. So as much as I would want another open bus up parade and another FA Cup for the record, give me what's going to make Arsenal a championship contender the year after that or the year after that.
Does anyone choose the FA Cup?
No, I think Fredo sums it up nicely. I also wonder why David's hanging out with pigeons in that picture. Oh, gosh.
That's why.
I had to go off for a second.
Oh, all right. So there's the thing is, I don't even – is that the same luchador mask as you had last time, or is that a different one?
As we speak.
Same one.
Okay, because if you had two luchador masks, then I would question your sanity.
His and hers.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I do think the fact that, A, we're rebuilding, and B, we have won three – I mean, we've had the luxury and the fortune of winning 3 FA Cups. Thank you, Arsene Wenger, honestly, for that in the last 5 or 6 years. And, if we were still struggling if we were in Tottenham's position, struggling for a trophy,
on the cusp,
not having won, empty trophy cabinet, all that, then I might feel differently about it. But we've got the cups to keep us busy. Now we got to get back up the ladder again. So I think this season, as opposed to any other, you choose fourth. And unless you disagree with me, Rey Mysterio, we'll move on to your questions from Brian Whitner. Ryan Lordo says, "Bring out the gimp." I think we've already had him out for the last 2 hours. What is your favorite Migas recipe? Am I pronouncing that right? Migas.
No, Migas.
No, what is your favorite Migas recipe? I assume it starts with pineapple.
No, it's not. It's a breakfast. It's a breakfast. It's a breakfast dish.
Should we just move on?
I don't have one. Yeah,
I don't want to take 20 minutes trying to talk about
right now. Here's what he's doing. He's winding me up because when there is no Waffle House in San Antonio. Now there is a campaign to get Waffle House to come to San Antonio. And when it kicked off, and I've been kind of involved, it's basically a Twitter thing.
Is the campaign? I'm like, you started the campaign.
No, I like saying no. It's always we. Everything with this thing is we. We have offices. The Twitter account refers to the Waffle House in San Antonio corporate offices. But there was some early attention to it with people saying they wouldn't have migas. And we get vilified in the San Antonio Current, which is the secondary newspaper here in town, for our anti-migas stance.
This is clickbait, though.
Yeah, it was basically all clickbait, yeah.
Does one use aftershave on one's hand? Now, this is a Gooner Gras reference, is it not?
Yeah, this is another bullshit reference. So here's the thing.
This is a little insight into how Gooner Gras evenings turn out, I think, if anyone's wondering.
So here's how the story happens. I'll tell the story this way. I wake up, I go to breakfast, and it's probably like 10 or 11 in the morning. But we go to breakfast, and no one's really talking, and everyone's just kind of slumped around this breakfast table. And I was like, I need to ask somebody. So, does anybody know why there's no hair on the back of my hand?
Yeah, because I've seen your hand, and there's a lot of hair on it normally.
Yeah, normally there's a good bit of hair, but it's clean gone. And the guy sitting next to me, who I'm not going to name, they can put it in the chat if they want. The guy sitting next to me pulls up his shirt and he says, "No, but is that a human bite next to my nipple?" And from there, no one had answers to any of the stories. I still don't know why the hair was missing from the back of my hand. I really don't. I don't know if it got burned off, if someone shaved it, somebody nared me. We don't know who bit this other person. It was human, though. It was definitely a human bite.
The other person, I think, has just been named in the chat by your wife, but yeah. So this is the one. The simple explanation is Gooner. You're gonna leave with less hair than you got there with.
Your hand's gonna get shaved. Someone's gonna shave your hand.
Yeah, it's usually good. Someone is gonna shave. That's Gooner 6. Someone's gonna shave your hand.
There you go.
That's what it's actually called. Final
Fredo,
question
there's your tagline, Fredo.
It wasn't him. Would being forced to live and shop only at Walmart for the rest of your life be worth you getting to own Arsenal? David.
Would being forced to shop at Walmart for the rest of your life?
You have to live at Walmart, and you can only ever shop at Walmart for the rest of your life, but you get to own Arsenal. I would take that bet.
I would take that. Yeah, that'd be fine.
Unless you physically can't leave, like to go to games and stuff. I mean, if you're trapped inside a Walmart for the rest of your life and you own Arsenal, I'm not quite sure what the good of owning Arsenal would be, other than making them, better, but and spending a lot of money on them, and then watching them on all the televisions inside Walmart. But
the deal killer would be if you added on there that we had to replace Fly Emirates with the Walmart logo. Because I swear to God, if that ever happens, I'm not buying the shirt.
Worst selling jerseys ever.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is the set of user questions. Andy, I noticed you've been replaced by some incredible art from Gunner Balls. Are you still with us?
I am still here. I was about to ask David that if removing Fly Emirates and putting Walmart on the shirt meant that we had just billions of cash revenue for us to sign.
Ooh. Yeah, like an Etihad type of shady deal.
Yes. Would that change your opinion of having Walmart? So we could get the Mbappe, we could buy Neymar, we could get
the Neymars of the world.
Anyone that we wanted, would that change your opinion?
It would not change my opinion.
Oh.
No.
I just want to give a special I want to give a special shout out right now to Ryan Mahomes. Thank you. So that's going to do it for tonight. Check us out if you're listening to this later, rather than joining us in the live chat. You should see a button appear right around here very shortly to click on, and immediately subscribe to our channel. We're really driving subscribers on YouTube right now. Most of our listens, as we've talked about before, and I insecurely feel the need to point out, come from iTunes and from Stitcher and all of that. But we are really trying to work on the video following, and so following us, giving us a thumbs up in the chat certainly helps, and we appreciate that. If you sign up and subscribe, you'll get a notification on your phone when we are going live or when we post other incredible content like what you've heard and experienced tonight. It will also alert you to when the next time is that Andy has diarrhea, which is a useful function.
Which right now is basically daily.
Yeah, I mean, so if you are listening live and you once you finish puking, please subscribe, click on the bell, and that'll be that.
Remember that time you shared a picture of when you shit yourself, and I think Fredo saw that too. Disgusting.
Excuse me.
To see that.
I missed that, but I'm gonna just leave it there. Fredo, how can people find you and find out more about Gooner? If you're in the U.S. or overseas and you're thinking about becoming part of the party, if you've got more hair on your body and want to kind of
want to lose some of it.
Yeah, if you want to lose some of it, this is probably the best way. A little expensive of a way of doing it, but you won't regret it. How can they find information about attending, about following it? Get it all out there.
The website is goonergras.com. You can go there. They'll have
the GRAS.
Yeah, it's Gooner and then Gras. GRAS. All of a sudden, couldn't talk. They'll have the itinerary of events. You can register right now, and as a matter of fact, we're telling people to try to do it before the 31st, because on New Year's Day, price will go up. So right now, you can register for a lower price, and you will get it next month.
Next month, it goes up to $15,000.
Yeah, something
Still
like that.
worth it, though.
Yeah,
Still worth it.
The fact of the matter is, it's a lot easier to make those reservations and all those kind of arrangements once we have exact numbers. We're registered. They said they're coming, so we can go and tell the people in the quarter to get ready for all the Gooners coming. So,
yep.
You know,
if you go there, you'll be able to see the Fredos, the Davids, the Mbappe of the world. They'll all be there.
All the kings and queens.
Not the Andes of the world. They won't be there. But all right. So, David, anything you want to promote, or has this conversation run its natural course?
Yeah, I knew you would work it in there. Excellent. Good job. I like that.
Couldn't help myself.
If anybody wants to jump on Twitter and hit Waffle House NSA and send tweets at Waffle House that we want them in San Antonio, please feel free to jump into that. But
have you noticed that I text you every time I eat at Waffle House? I text you and Laurie.
Yeah, just to
dig
that knife in a little bit more.
Exactly, the knife that's just come out of the steak and eggs and corn and hash browns.
The nice thing is they're working their way towards us. They're in Austin. They're maybe going to be working their way down I-35. If they ever do get here, they have messaged me privately and said I will be at the ribbon cutting.
with or without the luchador mask?
I haven't threatened them with that yet. So,
all right. So any other Twitter handles you wanna hand out, or are we going with the Waffle House one?
I think we should stick with Gooner Gras, actually, because to be honest, right now is about the time to be thinking about hotels and airfare and all of that. I got to work on my airfare pretty soon. And we've already but we've already filled up our block of hotels. We partnered, San Antonio and El Paso partnered to get a block of hotel rooms. We're out of rooms. So rooms are booking up quick. Airfare is going to be spiking up here pretty soon. So if you want to go,
buy tickets for the orgy. I think it's Friday night, right?
It's right in the room, Mike.
Mike, when do we pod again? Because you are heading down to Jamaica to get all new wait staff, and
what is that?
He texted me the other day saying,
"No, I did not.
My staff is fired." And
no, I'm going down there to introduce my family to Troops' family, who he's never met because I don't think he's ever been to Jamaica. But he said to bring them shoes, which is a curious thing. But yeah, I'll be in Jamaica. I'll be back though by New Year's. We'll pod after the Fulham game. We'll figure out a time. We'll figure out some guests, and we'll let you all know. If you subscribe, then you will know. If you follow us on Twitter at the Gooners Pod, then you will know. And so that is my recommendation to all of you. Andy, what public bathrooms are you going to be visiting this week? And do you want to give a shout out to anything?
I just like to surprise people. So
he does little pop-up appearances.
Weekly massage.
Yeah, I have to give them massages.
If you want to speak directly to his masseuse, you can follow on Twitter at Mile Highbury, and get all the details about that.
He has the softest hands.
Oh, the softest hands.
And the pictures he takes, Mike, are just delightful.
When we start doing a blog, I think people will learn more about your daily life, and they'll be shocked, absolutely shocked. Anyway, that's about it. Let's hope this week brings us some wins. Let's go up to Liverpool and stop them from being the Invincibles Part 2, because I'm not sure I can handle that. And that's it. Thanks, gents, for joining us. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Chad, I'll be in somewhere near Montego Bay. That's all I'm going to say.
Is Double Timmy's actually Fredo? His comment is, "I like Alfredo. He's my favorite so far."
Yep, the Fredo, you've got a fan. I will connect you two, and you can make offline contact.
Mike, I didn't know that was your mom's username. Hey.
All right. So Andy, good to see you again. Although I can't see you right now. David, thanks for joining us. We got the luchador mask on video. Fredo, always good to see you. I cannot wait to see you guys in February. And that's
everyone have a great Christmas.
Imagine
safe.
The Jewish guy forgetting to wish people Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking. Absolutely diabolical. Come on, you Gooners.